It's Friday morning. You guys know what Friday morning means. Friday morning means we do personal development and leadership, and we do have a special guest here. I see James is here. Hi, James.
What's
Are
up? Good
you?
morning.
Hey, good morning. So glad to have you. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for
Um,
inviting
well,
me.
welcome to the Miale team. James, we do this call every Friday, and
Hmm.
our intention here is to sort of get me out of the way, right? So you and I have known each other for many years. I don't know if you
Hmm.
remember our first interaction goes back when you were teaching Bold. This is
Hmm.
pre-COVID, I think.
Yep.
When did
Yep.
you start teaching Bold?
Uh, 14 or 15, something like that.
All right. And I was floating around the country selling a little known financial management product called Ari Profit, right? And so James and I met in a Bold room, and it maybe several times
Probably, yeah.
over that course of that run. And it was always impactful to be in your Bold rooms. I was in a lot of them, and there was notable difference between the way some Bold coaches brought the energy and the way other Bold coaches brought the energy, as you can probably attest to. One of the things that I learned over the course of my process, James, was that I would get this really great fortune of being in all these really good rooms with really smart people and learn all these really fantastic things. And I'd come back to Connecticut and I would distill down what I thought were the most important things. And I would try to then spew all over everybody,
Yeah.
leadership lessons in sound bites.
Right.
And I realized pretty quickly that that was definitely not the leadership style that was going to get us
Hmm.
where we wanted to go. And it wasn't.
Yep.
And that ultimately I was the bottleneck. And so the actual cure for that was to just get out of the way. And
Hmm.
so every Friday, just about every Friday, probably better part about 70% of Fridays in a year, we have a guest come. And our objective really is to just kind of learn from you about your process, kind of where it started for you, how you went
Hmm.
through it, and a lot of high achievers, a lot of people that have achieved a lot of success like yourself don't love talking about themselves. But I think there's gold and wisdom just in sort of how the decision points were made. So
Yeah.
um, for those folks who don't know James, tell us, who you are. And right now, you've got probably one of the most successful examples of a real estate community in the country, I think, with Pivot.
Hmm.
Um, I'd love to just hear sort of tell us how it started. Tell us how you
Sure.
started. How'd you come into this amazing industry?
Well, I've been with Keller Williams now 20 years. I started as a buyer agent on a team. And I got into real estate because I got fired from my job as a TV news producer. So I had been producing news at a CBS station in South Bend, and honestly, I was just a giant ass. So they invited me to do something else, which was really interesting. And it was like the best thing that ever happened, right?
How
So
long how long had you been in that career?
well, that's what I went to college for, and then I had been there about, I don't know, over a year or so. And the challenge with me was like I'm always pushing and trying to figure things out and find the most efficient way and how can we get better results. And when you're working in South Bend, Indiana, which at the time is like the number 87 market in the country, and there isn't a lot that happens there, especially on a non-Notre Dame football weekend, and there's only like 13 of those a year it's just not a lot going on. So we would debate all the time like what we have to put in this newscast. And at the time I was producing the 5 and the 5:30. So I had an hour-long newscast I had to put together. And it's like they're giving me crap to put in it. So I would push, why are we doing this? Let's do this. And because I was so green and new to to like being a professional, I just didn't have a lot of respect for when the conversation was over because I'm not in charge.
Uh,
And so I would kind of keep pushing, and then one day they were like, you're out." So my stepdad's ex-wife, you can map this out for a minute. My stepdad's ex-wife
got it.
reached out to me and said, "Would you be interested in getting your real estate license and selling houses?" And I was like, "Sure." So my mom was married to her ex-husband. That's how
Okay.
we knew each other. And um, her kids, my step siblings, and I were pretty close. So anyway, she's like, "You want to go sell houses?" So I'm like, "Sure." So she sells in West Lafayette, Indiana. I grew up in Indianapolis, and so this is all in Indiana. So she sells in West Lafayette, and I go get my real estate license, start selling with her. But what I didn't realize is She's one of the top real estate agents in the country. This woman sells 400 homes a year in West Lafayette, Indiana. She's been the number one real estate agent in that MLS for 50 years consecutive.
And you showed up with a the an idea like let's just make things a lot better. Big energy.
I mean, I just showed up like happy to have something to do. So,
Okay.
so I was like 23 years old or something like that, you know? So I would sit, I would ride around in her car, and this is before Bluetooth ran for your car. She wore a little ear thing, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh
And
yeah.
she would be talking to all the people on her phone, and then she would point. I would drive for her. I was like a chauffeur. She'd point if she wanted me to turn left or turn right, because, you know, and she was talking. She was lead generating and doing all this stuff. And that was my training, but I would only hear her side of the conversation. I never heard what they were saying. But I heard her say the same things over and over again enough that then when I would lead generate, I just would think about whatever Kathy had said, and I just ignored whatever their answer was, and I just kind of repeat whatever Kathy said. So
Fascinating.
I sold it took me like 2 weeks to get my first home under contract, and I sold several homes with her. But then I gotten engaged, and my now ex-wife is from Northwest Indiana, so I moved up there, and that's when I joined KW because Kathy had a lake house next to this agent inside of Keller Williams, who I had no idea was one of the top agents in Keller Williams. So I joined KW to be a buyer agent on Jana Caudell's team. We in 2005, I joined her team, and I was a buyer agent, but we quickly realized that that was not going to be my seat on the bus. That I like buyers were complaining about working with me because like my buyer consultation, I would do the consultation. I basically would tell them we're going to go look at 5 houses and you're going to buy one because if we look at any more than that, I don't have clarity about what it is that you want to look for, and it's really a waste of time. There's really only 5 houses anyway, which, by the way, that's correct. But the delivery of how I was doing that was rubbing a lot of people wrong. So, but I love the follow-up process and the battle. So she put me in where like I'd call FISBOs and expireds and run that play for her. I would take all of our old leads and follow up with those, and then I would start handing them out to our buyer agents to the point that in 2020 and 2006 I ran the whole sales side of the business. It was a seventh level team. She's the rainmaker. I'm running the sales side of the business for her. We were number one agent in Keller Williams that year, by the way. We did
Wow.
444 units that year, which I don't even know. That probably wouldn't get you in the top 50 anymore. But back then there were about 60,000 agents in Keller Williams. We were number one, 444 units, 93 million in volume, 2.3 million in GCI.
This
And
is
Gary was
also
still coaching people one on one back then. So he was our coach. Back then, the top 100 mastermind meant you actually had to be in the top 100. Like it was only the top 100. And so if only 62 could come, it was 62. And so we were in his mastermind group. And it's one of those things where sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And I was just lucky in the situations I was in and just soaked it all up. And I feel like I look at your organization and you should just soak it all up. You're lucky to be in an organization that's as elite as this, that you should just pay attention and do whatever they say and not ask questions. And I mean that in a really nice way. Like they have a system that works. That's what I learned. When Gary was the coach, you can ask Gary questions, but all Gary would do was point you back to MREA.
Every time. Right.
So it was, and shift wasn't out yet, but he would just point you back to MREA and he'd say, go run this play in MREA and you'll be fine. And that's what we would do. And sometimes Jana would say, yeah, but what about? And he was like, well, you can get creative if you want, but is the foundation in place? Like he was always pointing you back to MREA.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that's probably the case here. All right, so speed it up.
Well, actually, I want to
Go
pause
ahead.
on
Yeah.
something. I want to pause on something because I'm call it a student of the industry, a student of
Yeah.
how things have changed. What I think is interesting also is that time period. So that's 2004, 2005,
hmm
2006 when you're
Yeah.
on that team was also really when teams started to develop into what they are. I mean, it was not the formula of, as you mentioned, right back then, 444 units or whatever that was top, top in the nation. People just hadn't developed systems yet. So
Right.
not only were you maybe lucky to get in that environment, but then you were also really pioneering what has become the formula for teams that's now expanded into all these multiple different brands.
Yeah.
That must have been pretty interesting. What was
Um,
that process like? I mean, who were you following? When you're number one, you're following Gary, but
yeah,
you guys are innovating, expanding, growing, becoming
yeah.
different. How's that? How did that process?
Well, back then, I mean, it was like Gary and Nikki Ubaldini, Gene and Rebecca Rivers, Chad Goldwasser was here at the time. It was like that group, the Judy Johns. I mean, it was like Jimmy and Linda McKissick. Like that was the group back then that we were hanging out with, and um, and so yeah, we were just, but it was all very MREA based. It was just very focused on that, which is why I still believe in it and why I teach it. I think MREA is still relevant. We also had, this is fun, like expansion is a thing basically everybody does now. I think we had the first expansion team in KW
Love
in
it.
2006 and it failed miserably. But Gary was talking about this idea way back then of you have this hub already and you know how to do that. So start going to other places. And what we didn't recognize back then was the other place should be maybe like the next county
Yeah,
over and
right.
not 3/4 of the way across the country, which is, you know, what we were doing. But yeah, we expanded in 2006 and it totally failed. It was a total disaster. But the piece was just what is it that the other people are doing and then expand on it. Yeah, that was it. But
So
MREA is the foundation.
so he's pointing back to MREA. Teams
Yeah,
are growing,
yeah,
and you're in this place where you've really gone from TV producer
yeah,
to rock star rock star inside a rock star organization
yeah, yeah.
relatively quickly.
Hmm.
What were some of the challenges you experienced while you were in that? But
Yeah,
it's really like where did you find like you started this conversation with something I find interesting, which was, hey, I was a total ass.
I was, and I was an ass there too. I mean, the part of it, this is, I have, now I'm 48. So back then I was, you know, in my late 20s. And so there was this, and I'm pretty intense. I'm pretty focused. I mean, you've seen me in the bold room too. I would coach bold differently now than what you saw too, just like I've learned a lot. But I've always been very intense. And I think back then I was hyper focused on results where I've learned to become more hyper focused on process and the results will work themselves out. But back then I was very hyper focused on results. So if I wasn't getting what I wanted, I could get very frustrated. And if other people weren't moving at the speed at which I was moving, I would get very frustrated with them because we wanted results quickly. Like we needed to carry 100 active listings basically to hit the goals that we had, you know, or be in the pipeline of having around 100 available opportunities. And so if we weren't doing that, and I would get hyper focused on stupid things. So
Mhm.
I've learned in my time now to just relax a little bit and chill out, um, and be more committed to a process and less focused on like whatever happened that one day. And that was a challenge I had. There was a day, Matt, where I walked into the room to like our team meeting room, and the whole team was there. We had 3 listing specialists, 6 buyer agents, and an admin team of 3. That's all we had to do 400 plus units a year. It's not very big. And I remember walking in, and everyone was there in a circle. There was one open chair for me, and it was literally an intervention.
Wow.
And it was basically, we love you and love working with you and care about you as a person. But if this is how you're going to show up, we can't do this.
Hmm.
And but I was really mad back then, as you can
Of
imagine, because
course.
they were already mad at me about something, and my energy was one that got offended very easily back then.
Well,
But
and especially if you're wired as a person that's results oriented, you'd be like,
uh-huh.
how dare you look at me? I'm the one
Right,
trying.
I'm the one
And
producing over here. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So the thing that was, but now, right, I'm knocking on the door of 50. I have this, that team cared about one another.
Hmm.
It was a group that was passionate about not just the results, but the people. Because
Yeah,
the easy thing to do, and I think what most teams would have done, was fire me. And
yeah,
then I would have had to start over in learning this lesson that the television station attempted to teach me.
yeah.
But instead of doing that, they put their arms around and said, "Let us help you." And I think that that's, if this team is doing that, then you're in the right place. And you know, I got the vibe from being on, like, any team that can start with Baby Shark on the call is like, this is a team that cares about one another.
Yes.
Yeah. So I
We
think we got to have that, yeah, that kind of environment. And I'm very thankful for that. And it helped me because then I got into market center leadership because I got divorced from my ex-wife who lived up there. So there's no reason for me to stay. And so I got into market center leadership. So an assistant team leader in Tampa. Then I was a team leader in Cary, North Carolina, and then a team leader again in Tampa. So a team leader for 8 years and Coach Bold. Like I moved on that journey. And what I appreciate about it is like I personally never sold real estate at a high level. I sold homes quickly, but remember the team transitioned me out of selling and running the more day-to-day ops. So I think in my career, I've probably sold 25 houses.
Okay.
But I know the models better than just about anybody because I lived it in the team. We were coached by Gary. I knew what worked. Then I got into market center leadership, and all I ever did all the time was teach from this. This is the copy of MREA I got when I joined Keller Williams 20 years ago, and now it like comes all apart like it's a hot mess.
There are people though who, and in every walk of life, I mean, I love making professional sports analogies,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there are people who are better suited in the coach leader role than on the field.
Brad Stevens never played basketball at a high level.
Right.
I mean, and he's your guy running the Celtics now. I wish he was back home again in Indiana, but he's running the Celtics. You guys won a title with him. He took Butler to two straight national championship games. He never played at a high level. Bill Belichick never played football at a high
Right.
level, failed in Cleveland.
Yep.
Now he's dating a student at the University of North Carolina. Um, I mean, there's lots of examples of that. I'm a Pacers fan. Rick Carlisle never played basketball at a high level and just took the Pacers. They were 24 minutes away from winning a championship.
So
Yes, I think that if you can understand the models, and I've done that in market centers, I grew them in recessions and help people grow because, and I get accused of this, of being overly simple, and I take it as a compliment. I think the answers are overly simple.
they are. It's a
And if
pretty
you can
simple
just
business.
get, we make things so complicated, if we can just narrow it down to
Mhm.
the fundamentals and the basics, then you're probably going to be just fine.
I want to dive into something that I personally find fascinating, and I know that the team will really enjoy. Um, and again, we haven't even gotten to the many accomplishments that you've had in recent years that are, super impressive. But all of these things wrap themselves around this concept of identity. And I think this is one of the more powerful ways that we can help ourselves grow personally and develop personally is understanding that you've been committed to the process, but along the way, and you've made several comments about either you've softened your approach or you've changed your approach or you approach people, you see things differently now. And we all are struggling with that. I think that like
Yeah.
whether we show up and we're too aggressive in a room or we show up and we're too docile in a room, there's a part
Hmm.
of us that has accepted that this is how I should show up in order to get what I want. And then we have to change that in order to get different outcomes.
Yeah.
You said, from TV producer to buyer's agent to leader on a team to an intervention to bold coach to market center leadership in multiple markets to bold
Yeah.
coach to now running your own organization.
Yeah.
Your identity has certainly changed over the course. You are not
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same person, probably even than you were a year ago.
True.
One of the things that I love to dive into this because I feel that we're all in a process, not of achieving tasks or accomplishing tasks, but figuring out the version of ourselves that needs to be the person that will accomplish those tasks. And you've got a phenomenal track record of having done that. What's that look like for you when you look in the mirror and you have that moment of reflection and say, okay, the version of James today is not the version of James that will get what I want in the future.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I think first is that just your experience and growing up will cause you to learn this stuff, learn how to read the room. Having a teenager living inside of your house will help you with this too.
It sure will. Yeah.
So now that I've got a eighth grade 13-year-old, like I was joking with Terry yesterday, that when I pick her up from school, I don't know if I'm like her friend or her transportation.
Yeah.
And I find out when she gets in the car which one it is, and
Yeah.
how I communicate with her varies based on am I friend or transportation. And yesterday on the way home from school, I was transportation. But
Mhm.
yesterday on the way home from dance, I was friend. It's very strange how quickly it
Very
changes, and you just
strange.
have to learn how to adapt. What
And those many characters will advance as your child gets older.
I'm sure, I am
Like
sure. It's
then
so
you will be
interesting.
enemy, public
Yeah,
enemy number one,
yeah,
best
yeah,
friend,
yep,
confidant, like yeah,
yep.
all kinds. Yeah.
100%. Last night, honestly, I just wanted to go to bed. Terry was out doing something. I was wanting to go to bed, and Naomi is sitting in there telling me all about what's going on in Keeper of the Lost Cities, which is a book series she's read multiple times. And truthfully, I had zero interest in this, but I'm like, but she's talking to me, so I'm going to be super engaged into what's
All
going
in.
on. It
All
was
in.
really really fun. Okay, so here's the thing I have learned. I'm going to recommend a book to all of you, and it's from this guy's become a friend of mine now, which I'm very thankful for. His name's Brad Stulberg,
Okay.
and you should follow this guy on Instagram. Uh, he is Bennett. Your daughter loves Keeper Lost Cities, so does Naomi, and we're waiting for book 11 or whatever to come out. Um, the Practice of Groundedness is Brad Stulberg's book. He's got several. This is my favorite of his. We've had him in Pivot several times, and he's a really academic guy. You know, this is a kind of his personality is very level, so it can you just got to kind of roll with that. And his books can be academic, but this he's really the one that helped teach me this idea behind getting out of this obsessing over results and outcomes and getting more tied to process, which I imagine you guys are into. That you have the way that this is the expectations of the team. These are the systems we run, the processes we have, and the expectations that come along with it. And Brad talks a lot about that in here. And again, I was a for a very long time an outcome focused. Did we get a listing today? How many calls did it take for me to da 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 and doing all this math when I was just like, no, wait a minute. The results of any one day are only important if that's the only day I do something.
Hmm.
But if I'm going to be committed to running my play regularly, then the result of any one day doesn't really matter that much. And so I would love for us to now I say that with understanding you still have to interrogate the results and make sure that the process you're following is one that will lead you to the results that you want. But I think that on your team, that part has already been done.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Yeah.
guys already know what type of results we should get from the process. So I would say to the team members, if you're struggling with your result, it's not the process that's the problem
Right.
because the process has already been proven. So there's something that you're doing within the process that isn't being as effective as it should be.
Right. There's some input that's not being
Exactly.
in,
Right.
right? You built
Right.
an engine and you go, it won't drive. Well, you forgot to add gas, right?
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
you should interrogate that. But if we can commit to just being, dedicated to some type of process and know that if we do that, we'll get the outcomes over time that we desire. And now the emotions don't get all over the place because if you go on the listing appointment and don't get it, it's not a big deal because you already know you're not going to get them all anyway, and you're following the plan that's going to get you the listings. What the challenge we have right now, this isn't probably as big of a deal in Connecticut as it is in a lot of the country, but it will become a big deal in Connecticut at some point. And that is, it just simply takes more active listings to sell one right now.
Right.
So we were at a point 2 years ago that if you took a listing, you sold a listing. I mean, it was really quite simple. Take one, sell one, take one, sell one. And now it might take two.
Yeah.
And where I am, literally the worst market in the country is 90 minutes south of me. Punta Gorda, Florida is
Yeah.
the worst market in the country. Southwest Florida is
That's
the ground zero for the shift.
yeah.
And prices are down there, double digits. Inventory is way up, like it's a hot mess.
Yeah.
Um, Down there, you might need to take 5 or 6 listings to sell one.
Right.
So your goal doesn't change, but your process to the goal changes, and that can lead to some frustration. But if you can figure out, I'm going to commit to a process, and I just need to show up and do what I'm supposed to do every day, and over time I'll get the result I want. You don't get too emotional, and I
Right.
think that's where we make bad decisions when we get emotional.
Well, and that's where we start to try to get creative because, oh, it didn't work this time. And so I'll have to do it different next time. And so you never actually land on a process. You just wind up playing jazz all the time. And sometimes jazz is magic, but sometimes jazz sounds terrible. Yesterday, Dan Raposo, another one of our partners here on the team, he and I went for a hike and we were talking about how the challenge of
That's how you can tell you live in Connecticut, by the way,
what,
is that you just say, yeah, my buddy Dan and I on a random Thursday, we just went for a hike.
yeah, Yeah. Well, I
That's
don't
like
like
the most Connecticut thing to say.
we there's only so many hours in a day, and I'm always trying to get my steps in and get some
Uh-huh.
exercise.
Yeah,
And so we just threw away the idea of doing one-on-ones a few years ago and said we don't do one-on-ones, we do walk and talks. So
I
if we're
love
we're
that.
going to spend time together, we're going to be moving our feet and moving our bodies
That's
at
great.
the same time because
That's great.
it's just the right way to double down. So Dan and I did this quick little hike, and we were talking about how the challenge with exactly what you just described, which is marrying the process, which we have nailed it. We are it is so proven over 2 decades worth of refining a process. We've got every step from how to get the person to how to describe to them the value proposition to how to walk them through the content. The challenge is that you don't win 100% of the
That's
time.
right.
And so when you don't win 100% of the time, you start to doubt not just the process, but yourself. You start to bring all this energy of dysfunction to the process. So it's like adding extra parts and you build a Frankenstein instead of just following a system, knowing exactly what you said that there's something about our human need for instant results that cannibalizes our ability to win. And so I go out today and I go have 2 listing appointments. And if I come home with 0 signed agreements and 2 no's, what will happen no matter how long I've been in the business is I will start to doubt or question what's wrong. What did I do wrong? How did I screw this up? How could they not want what's different? And then when you can layer in experience, which is what you and I have and many of our agents on the team have, which is calm down, dude. This
Yeah.
is normal. This is what happens. But when you don't have experience, you start to question it all, and it's like go back to the drawing board and you recreate it, and then you win, and you say, "Oh my God, I won! That must be the thing." And you do that again, and then that fails, and so you never marry something. And the issue is that there's a million different ways to win in this business, but you've got to pick one and stick with it. Otherwise, you're always bringing chaos to the system.
Well, the what you described is the person who's more focused on outcome than process. And so if
Exactly.
you're going to be married to like even if you think you use a sports analogy again, what the Dolphins were the last team to go undefeated. It was like 1979 or whatever year though. I don't know what year it was, but even the Patriots tried and they lost the only game they weren't allowed to cheat in. So
That's right.
that's my I'm a Colts fan,
A
sorry.
little dig. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, I mean, you go look at the Celtics when they won the championship 2 years ago, or whatever. What they still lose 20 something games that year, or whatever. Like it's just, I don't know. I was talking with somebody about baseball the other day. You already know going into a baseball season that you're going to win 54, you're going to lose 54, and it's the other 54 that determine the result. Like it's just how it works.
That's right.
So don't and baseball is a great example of being committed to a process and not a result. Like you go watch a relief pitcher who gives up a game-winning home run, but then they're out there the next day doing it again. What would you have done differently? Nothing. They just got a piece of they just happened to hit it that day. Like it's just the way it works. So what Brad teaches in his book, The Practice of Groundedness, is he said, if you want to get into a process mindset, here's what you do. Number one, you set the goal. So I imagine, Matt, that everybody on your team has some goal of homes they want to sell this year, or
Absolutely.
they want to take or whatever. So step one, set a goal. But that's the easy part. I would add to it that the goal must have meaning of some kind. So the challenge that most people have with setting a goal is that they're like, last year I did 24, so this year I think I can do 32. Like that's not a goal that has any meaning whatsoever.
Yeah. Who cares, right? It's just a
Right,
number, right?
right. But if you set a goal based on, like Gene Rivers teaches this concept of the lid, that you go and figure out what's your lifestyle going to cost, how much investing you want to do, and what is your debt obligation going to be in a given year, including taxes. That's what the lid stands for. L is lifestyle, I is investing, D is debt. He says you go figure out those three things and you'll get a number, and that's your income goal before tax, right? Because tax is built into the debt side. And then you put that in the economic model and it'll spit out what your goal is. Now your goal has meaning. So the goal has to have meaning. So you set a goal that has meaning. Number two, step two, figure out the steps you have to take to reach the goal, which my guess is the team can tell you that. You guys already know the steps required to reach a goal. So step one, set a goal that has meaning. Step two, figure out the steps required to reach the goal. Step three, forget about the goal and simply focus on the steps. Put the goal aside and just focus on the steps. And it's hit the steps, hit the steps, hit the steps. And then he says, step four, if you find out that all of a sudden you begin obsessing about a goal or a result, who's done that on here? Because you're on a bad streak and you've lost a few in a row, and so then you start to obsess over the result or the goal. What Brad says is just to stop and ask, well, then what should I be doing right now?
Hmm.
And that gets you back into a process mindset. What you've done when you start obsessing, which we all do, is we move to an outcome and we're obsessing over an outcome. And he's going, when you do that, stop and just ask, what should I do right now? Which moves you back to process.
That's brilliant, because one of the things I always say is the cure for all things in real estate is a full pipeline. The
Yeah.
reason we start obsessing about outcomes is because our pipeline's not full, and a deal that we're counting on starts to get squirrely, or something doesn't go right, or we have our appointments and we go 2 weeks in a row and we don't get a win. And so then we start obsessing, like, I'm never going to hit my goal. I'm never going to get where I need to be. And we get into that wash cycle, and you can't break out of it. But the question, what should I be doing right now, is very powerful, because the
Well,
answer,
it gets you out of the emotional part and gets you back into this, like, all right, well, what are the steps?
that's it.
It's funny because I had a meeting with Gary a while back, and I was talking. This particular conversation was probably 2 years ago now, and as the market's kind of changing, and I noticed from what I do every day, like the anxiety had gone way up. So I asked Gary, are you noticing that, in the mastermind groups you're leading and stuff like that, that anxiety is way up? And he said, yes. And I said, why do you think that is? Why is anxiety going up? And he said, anxiety is going up for agents for really two reasons. Number one, they don't have enough reserves, or number two, they don't have a deep enough pipeline, or number three, both, right? They have no reserves and no pipeline. And so if you have no reserves and no pipeline, like, you're totally screwed, because if you have reserves but no pipeline, then you're not as stressed because you can pay the bills and meet your obligations, and you can survive this time.
You can,
If
you
you have
can,
a pipeline and no reserves, then while you know what, you might have to make some different financial decisions for a period of time, there's light because you can see that there's stuff coming. But if there's no pipeline and no reserves, you're in a world of hurt. Well, the easiest one to fix is the pipeline.
hmm
You can deepen the pipeline before you can deepen the reserves. So if that's where you are, where you're in this high anxiety type, I would ask, is it because the pipeline's not deep enough, or is it that you don't have enough reserves, or both? And then once you figure that out, ask, all right, so what's the fastest path to get out of this stress? It's likely deep in the pipeline.
that is that I love the way it's either no pipeline, no reserves. Either one can help you navigate the emotional impact
Right.
of not winning in a moment, right? Or not feeling like you're winning, because either one will prevent you from having to compromise the life you're living, which is ultimately what all of us actually care about, right?
Well,
Like,
you get
well,
emotional if you don't have any money and you don't know where the money is going to come from. So if you're broke and there's no hope, then you usually make pretty stupid decisions.
absolutely. Yeah, that's when people start really panicking and doing crazy stuff, right?
Right.
Selling
Right.
stuff off, can't,
Uh,
they make decisions that are not based in reality. I'm going to cancel all my subscriptions. I'm going to, they make decisions that aren't based in, they put more energy into figuring out how to not buy Starbucks every day than just go out and get one more listing or one more buyer. They start putting all the energy into how to take shorter routes from A to B, so they spend less money on gas, versus just put the energy into going and filling the top of the pipeline.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think when you look at the market right now, like, sure, the market's challenging. We're probably going to have the fewer home sales this year. I think Gary said 4.2 million at Mega Camp or something. I don't know. We'll see if we get to 4 million. I don't know what the number will be. Um, so it's going to be one of the lower sales years in history. But I bet if any team member logged into the MLS and looked at the number of closings yesterday in your market, it exceeded the number that you hope to sell this year.
100%. We see it
So
every day.
there is opportunity for you, but you have to do the right thing. And in fact, the truth is, opportunity shows up in a moment like this. Like, this is really a chance for you to take off. When I was team leader in Cary, North Carolina, I got there January 4th, 2009. So if you were selling homes back then, you understand what that was like. Our agent count went from 110 to 89 in 60 days. And they didn't leave to, like, go to Coldwell Banker. They got out of the business because they were broke. And so the two things came out in 2009. that we did not have before, which were the Shift book came out in 2009 and Bold came out in 2009. Those both of those things came out in 2009. And so this became the manual I taught from, and we did Bold. Do you know that our market center, while the agent count went down, we became the number 3 market center in the Carolinas region. And if you know anything about Carolinas region, it's always been a race for third place because back then it was like Asheville and like South Park were 1 and 2, and then everyone else was racing for third. We had the smallest market center in the region, and we were third in profitability. And how do we do that? Well, I would lose an agent, Matt, who was selling 2 houses a year, so they get out of the business. But I'd recruit an agent who was doing 6 million. Now the year
Mhm.
prior they had done 10 million, so they've dropped from 10 to 6. I'd recruit them. So we're going up, up, up in the rankings,
Mhm.
even though our agent count was going down. And that was only available to us really because of a transition in the market. This is your chance to do the same thing. When the market transitions is when opportunity comes in because when the market's rising, right? When the water rises, all boats float. So when the market's going up, everybody gets the boost. But when the market drops, you have an opportunity to pick up some market share if you're willing to do the things you're supposed to do, which is
Well,
follow the process the team is teaching.
the thing that we often talk about a culture of productivity on the team. That this is like when people say, tell me about your culture, I always say we have a production culture, right? The culture of our team is production. And what
Yes.
what you just described in the way that you adapted through that process was about focusing on the production. So there is this, let's talk a little bit about this balancing act between, okay, let's not be obsessively focused on results, focus on process, and the results actually do matter, right? So by going and getting by having production as the benchmark, and then, but so what I guess what I'm getting at is you reverse engineer to the result.
Yes.
You build the process to focus on the result so that
Yeah.
the result is a foregone conclusion based on whether or not everybody gets up every day. If I do 100 push-ups a day, 100 sit-ups a day, follow a diet, get 10,000 steps, and work out 3 times a week, I 100% am going to be in better shape 6 months from now.
Correct.
Not after day one. So the thing that actually matters is, did I do the 100 push-ups, the 100 sit-ups, get the 10,000 steps, follow a
Yeah.
diet, and go to the gym, right?
Yes, and I would just add a couple things to that. First, the process is determined by the goal. It's not some haphazard thing of, I think I'm going to call 3 people and a
Right.
day and sell 200 homes a year. Like we know that process is not going to lead to that goal. So the process is determined by the goal. Number two, in the example you just gave, if I give 100 push-ups a day and 100 sit-ups a day and I work out 3 times a week and I follow a diet, that is all correct. And you also have to allow for space to not do 100 push-ups a day, that this particular day you only did 54, and that
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
And that was a lesson my daughter taught me. So to understand the life of my 8th grader, school is from 9 to 4. That's when school is, and then she has 14 hours of dance a week. So do I have any other dance parents on here, by the
Oh,
way?
you got a few. We got a
Yeah.
couple.
Yeah. So Jeremy understands what I'm talking about. So I just paid a choreography bill of $750, and I got another one coming. We got choreography all weekend. She'll be there from 5 to 8 today, 9 to 4 tomorrow. Like it's what it is. But she loves it, by the way. Like every year, do you want to do this? Yes, I want to do it. And so 14 hours of dance. So I remember a particular day, Jeremy, you'll get this. That by the way, she just started point too in ballet. She got her braces and her point shoes on the same day. That poor child. But anyway, so Jeremy, one day I had Terry took her to school at 9. School ends at 4. She had musical practice because she was in the musical. So she had musical practice from like 4 to 6. Then we had to pick her up and take her to dance. And she had 3 dance classes that day. And the last one was her ballet class. And I show up at 8:45 p.m. She's been gone from the house for 12 hours to pick her up from ballet. And I'm watching the last 15 minutes of ballet and I am totally underwhelmed.
Mm,
Like I'm watching her in there and I'm like, we paid the one
mm,
year in dance, we paid like $16,000 for dance.
mm,
When you look at conventions and costumes and hotels and all the things, I'm like, and I'm watching her in there and I'm like, she is like lazily going through stuff.
mhm.
And I was kind of annoyed. So she gets in the car this is not one of my prouder moments, but just you've all been bad parents too.
We've all had it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she gets in the car and I'm like, how was dance today? And she's like, it was fine. I was like, well, how would you say your effort was? And she was like, it was pretty good. I'm like, well, were you like really focused and paying attention? Because remember, I can get hyper focused on results sometimes. Were you really focused and paying attention? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, are you sure? And I'm thinking I'm like coaching her up without accusing her of being lazy when really I'm being a total ass. So she just looks at me and she's like, Dad, if all I have to give is 20% and I give it 20%, then I gave it 100%.
It's awesome.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then I got really proud of myself because I'm like, I probably taught her that. But anyway, but the point being is that I don't want you to get so hyper focused on if I don't follow this process exactly word for word, step by step every day, I'm a loser. That there's going to be a variation in the day. Something we created inside of, so you'd mentioned Pivot, which is my free group, and it's got 124,000 people in it. I have a private paid mastermind community too that's got about 1,400 people. And one thing we've taught to that group is we teach a daily point system. And we borrowed it from my friend Brittany McAllister, who's in Omaha, Nebraska. And Brittany had a daughter who was born 90 days early. So she weighed like 2 pounds. And she was in the NICU for 9 months. And then during that time, became pregnant with her son. So in the same year, they brought both kids home from the hospital. Like her daughter came home and she gave birth to her son within the same year and brought them both home. So I want you to think about that she's got a daughter in the NICU for 9 months, which has got to be like $5 or $6 million.
Yeah.
And 9 months in the NICU, she's pregnant with her son and she needs to sell houses to fund her family and fund her life and all this sort of stuff. And she was like, she had to get super narrow about what she could do. So she created a point system where she took all the different things that could be dollar producing in the real estate world, whether it was talk anywhere from talking to her database to going to a closing and everything in between, and assigned a points value to them.
I love it.
So talking to 5 people in her database was 5 points. Taking a listing was 15 points. Like going to a closing was 10. Writing an offer was 10. Door knocking was 5. All these different things. And she said the only thing she focused on daily was getting to 30 points. The process of how she got there. So if she took 2 listings that day, she got 30 points. She didn't need to call anybody out of her database or knock on a door or host an open house. But there were some days that she'd be sitting at the hospital and texting all these people in her phone, and that's how she was earning her points. Do you know she sold 72 houses that year?
That is so brilliant. The gamification of the process to allow for the flexibility in
Yep,
between, like, well, I'm not going to take a listing today. I don't have a listing appointment.
that's right.
What should I do? Well, no matter what you do, you got to get your 30 points. I
It
love
had a menu. She had a menu to choose from. So we teach that now. She let us borrow it and adapt it and teach it. We give everybody 1 point if they're on the pivot call, so they can only have to get 29 from there
that's
on
cool
out. But
too.
the
Just
but
showing up.
that whole idea of, and I would encourage your team maybe to look at something like that. That not everything is for everyone, and so for to have a choice. And true story, if you took 2 listings today, like Matt, you're going on 2 listing appointments today. You won. Like who cares if you followed your DTD2 or not? I don't care. You took 2 listings.
Right. Right.
So
You
that
did
was what the system she came up
you
with.
did
That's
the
a
job
process
part.
focus.
You did the job part to the extent that you could control the job part. Then there's a
Correct.
bunch of things that show up that are outside of your control, and you can't control them, and you can't, again, you on any given day you hit the ball and it goes out of the park, and on another given day you swing and you miss, right? Those
That's
are
right.
things that actually happen.
That's right.
So talk to us about Pivot, Shift That. Tell
Yeah.
us about the community. Tell us about how it's
Well, Pivot, I started, so I was coaching Bold when the pandemic hit. So obviously we were not going to be getting on airplanes and going around the country.
yeah.
So I just wanted a space for us to connect and first make sure that our mindset was one that was positive, because go back to March of 2020 and just how are we going to do this? And then next was focused on opportunity and possibility. So how can we find a way to connect with people and get results? So that's when I created Pivot. The idea behind Pivot Shift Ahead, if you're not a member of the Facebook group, you should join it. I think there's a lot of
Corey,
great
can we put
resources in there.
a link to the group in the chat? Thank
Yeah, I
you.
can put one, or someone can. That would be great.
Yeah, we've got it.
Um, Join Pivot. It's awesome. It's not a place where you come and ask questions like, what's the best CRM? Like, that's not a question we ask in there. The one we got the other day was like, we have an agent who's been in the business 20 years, sells 40 houses a year. and she had her buyer email her all these things ChatGPT said they should have done in their offer. And so
Mm.
we strategized around how do we help our buyers and sellers understand when AI can help them and when it's BS. So we talk, and then how do we teach them that sort of thing up front? That's the kind of stuff we do. But anyway, so the whole premise of the Facebook group is the daily call that I lead. So I do a morning mastermind call. It's free and open to anyone. I'm sure some of you on this call have been on that. I invite you to come back, and we do it every morning, 7:30 Eastern. If you go to jamesdshaw.com, I can put it in the chat or someone else can, but if you go to jamesdshaw.com and click join our free daily call, it'll give you the Zoom link. And that is a free call that we just host. You can be on, while you're getting ready. Just if you're naked, keep your camera off. That's my one request. We've had 7 naked people in the 5.5 years, and we're not really looking for
7 so far. Okay.
7. Yeah. But we haven't had one in like over a year, which is good. So anyway, with that's the idea of that. And then that is when I created the private group because we had people ask for to go a little bit more. So I've got a private community and that talks about that on my website too. And then I post a lot of stuff I learned from people in Pivot on my Instagram. So James D. Shaw is the Instagram. If you want to connect with me there, I would love that. That would be really cool. James D. Shaw
Now, James,
is how you can find me. What's
you
that?
also do some live events
Yeah.
around the country. So
Mhm.
is that for your private mastermind group? Or
Yeah.
when is
Anybody can come to that. I'm doing your ALC clinic again in New England. So if anybody is on the ALC, I'll be at your ALC clinic this year. They just asked me to do that.
when are you doing that, James?
That I can't remember.
Okay, I'll
Yeah,
find out.
I
Okay.
don't remember.
Yep.
I do 2 in-person events a year. My next one is called Advance. That is our annual business planning event. It is in Tampa, and I'm co-teaching it with a guy named John Acuff, who I think is a genius. John Acuff has sold 1 million books. His most popular one is probably Soundtracks. What I've been excited about is this one here, All It Takes Is a Goal. And it's a really, really good book. And so he and I are going to co-teach a business planning event in Tampa in November. You're welcome to come to that. And then I do an event every year called Elevate. Did anybody in here ever go to Recharge when Maps did Recharge? Anybody know that event? Or heard of John Maxwell's Exchange?
Yeah.
So this is it's a poor man's version of that. It's this all-inclusive, like we take care of everything, guest speakers, surprise events, stuff like that. We do that every April. It's sold out. We're doing it in London next year, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool, but it's sold out, so you can't come. But the advance, there's still tickets for if anybody wants to come to our business planning event. It's pretty cool.
What is your tell us about your private mastermind group? You said you
It's
have
called the
4.
Inspire Collective. We meet once a week, Tuesdays, noon Eastern, to mastermind, to come up with playbooks. We're doing a session with Lauren Lucas. She was at Mega Camp this week. We're doing a 90-minute AI playbook for real estate agent session this week. Yeah, it's a weekly session. Yeah, you get the point system, Shane. You can pay your 99 bucks and come get the point system if you want it. It's 99 bucks a month. You can cancel whenever you want. And you couldn't possibly consume all the content we have, but there's some info on my website about it if you're
That's
interested.
fantastic.
Yeah.
James, if you've got 5 minutes,
Yeah.
I'd love to open it up for questions, comments
Yeah.
from our crowd here.
Yeah.
This has been a laser fast 54 minutes. So thank you. Everything has been incredibly powerful, and you definitely made a difference today. So, folks, what would you like to ask James? We've got him for a couple more minutes here. What would you like to ask? What kind of comments do you have? What did he inspire in you today? What kind of thoughts do you have?
This is where we have awkward silence on Zoom.
It usually takes a minute, but Aaron Burnap, always the leader, stepping up. Love it, EB. Thank you. What do you think?
Errands. We can't keep our mouths shut. I just wanted to point out that like my big takeaway is to check myself with my process mindset to kind of move away from being obsessive about outcomes and kind of just dive back into the process when things aren't going right instead of yelling or sitting there and having a poor me moment to just, I mean, we have processes that are proven, they work. So if something's awry, dive into that pipeline, get back into that database and just get back into the processes that we have in place that are proven.
Aaron, high achievers become overly focused on results when things are stressful. So when they get stressed out, then you tend, just high achievers, which I assume you are, get very focused on results. And then what you start doing is getting frustrated with people. Well, why isn't this happening? Why didn't you do this? Why aren't we? And then we even start like they're like 85% following the process, which is actually pretty good. So you start bitching about the 15% of the process they aren't following. And so we have to be careful as high achievers. I do this to my team sometimes too. Like this free Facebook group I started, I now have like 4 employees who get health insurance and all these things. It's crazy what's happened out of this. And there are times that I will go, and they're, by the way, they are like these SC behaviors that are amazing implementers, and then, but sometimes I come in and I'm like, and they're like, everything's actually really good. So we have to be careful, I think, when anxiety goes up, if we aren't getting what we want, not to just on everybody.
I love that example. Early in my leadership career, there was an agent on our team who was experiencing the highest level of success they'd ever had in their career. She had 8 closings in a single month.
That's great.
And came to me as frustrated and angry and just so worked up over how terrible everything was.
Yeah.
And I was like, when is the last time you've sold 8 houses in a month?
Exactly.
Like, never. And I said, when's the last time you sold 6? Never. How about 5? Never. How about 4? Never. How about 3? Well, 6 months ago. Okay. You're experiencing a whole new level of stuff going on. So things feel a lot worse than they really are. You're selling 8 houses in 30 days. Like that's a great thing to celebrate.
Yeah. The team has to remind me sometimes we're succeeding. We have 1,400 people inside the Inspire Collective. That's the private mastermind community. There's 1,400 people that are part of what we do every day. That's the top revenue generator, right, for what we do, and creates all of our opportunity. And we, started it with 20 people 4 years ago. So the perspective of the progress you've made really matters sometimes. Aaron, great share. Thank you. I like you. You're smart.
Sure is. Yeah. Well, any other questions, guys, before we let James go? We're running out of time here. Any other thoughts or comments?
I'm putting my contact info in the chat, by the way, if anybody wants to connect. So this is my cell phone and my email if I can ever help you.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Well, guys, it's Friday, which means that we've got a teed up spectacular weekend ahead. Most of you guys have got multiple open houses on the calendar. You've got your stuff laid out. You know what you're supposed to do. Please follow James, connect with James, get on his website. If you want to participate in any of the events, maybe we can put a group together to go and attend one as an organization. I would love to do stuff like that. James, thank you so much.
You got it. Thanks for the invite. Be well, everybody.
Powerful morning. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Hey guys, you know the drill, right? What do we got to do? It's again, simplify. Sign something, sell something, or set an appointment.